All right, so today we're going to be taking a deep dive into this story about Elon Musk and a homeless man.
Hmm.
You've probably seen it, the one with the headline about, the response that'll leave you speechless.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
It sounds a little clickbaity,
for sure.
but maybe there's something interesting here
Yeah, I think there might be.
underneath all the hype.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely a lot of layers to this one.
So to set the scene, we've got like this bustling city street, right?
Okay.
A homeless man, and then there's Elon Musk, you know, tech innovator, billionaire.
Yeah, almost a symbol in himself, really.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah,
kind of like this unexpected encounter.
definitely.
So what we want to do today is sort of separate fact from hype
Okay.
with his viral story and see what it tells us about opportunity, kindness,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe even a little bit about Elon Musk himself.
That's a good point. These kind of stories, they really say a lot about all the players involved.
Yeah, so let's start with the encounter itself. So the story goes that this homeless man approached Musk asking for $1.
Right. Just a simple request.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that Musk actually stopped to talk to him.
Which, you don't always see.
Not from somebody like him, no.
Right, exactly. I mean, he could have just kept walking, but he chose to engage, and that's where the story takes this interesting turn.
So the article's saying that Musk went beyond just giving money.
Yeah, it really emphasizes that point. It's pushing the idea that he provided opportunity, instead of just handing over $1.
What kind of opportunities, though?
Well, that's where the article gets a bit vague. It suggests things like networking resources, maybe even job opportunities within his companies.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's framing it as a more sustainable way to help, empower someone to rebuild their life, not just get through the day.
I can see why that resonated with people.
Yeah.
It's a feel-good story, right?
It is, and the article mentions how it just exploded on social media. All those hashtags trending, Elon Musk inspires, kindness matters.
Yeah, so is that all because of the Elon Musk factor?
Partly, I think, I mean, he's such a big name in tech innovation, always pushing boundaries.
Yeah.
So seeing him apply that kind of problem solving to homelessness, it captures people's attention.
Okay, but you said partly. What else is there?
I think it goes deeper than just the celebrity factor. This story taps into something more universal.
Okay, I'm listening.
Think about it, a powerful figure like Musk choosing to show kindness to someone who's often overlooked it challenges our assumptions.
You're saying it reminds us that anyone can make a difference.
Exactly.
To
It
be kind.
doesn't matter how much wealth or status you have, you can still choose to be kind to help others.
So it's not just about the act itself, it's the message behind it.
Right. And that message resonates because it gives people hope, a sense that positive change is possible.
I get that. But is a single act of kindness really enough to tackle an issue as big as homelessness?
That's a good point. And to be honest, the article doesn't really dive into the systemic factors at play.
Mhm.
It focuses more on the individual level.
So it's inspiring, but maybe not a complete picture.
Yeah, but maybe that's okay. The story, it's like a starting point for a bigger conversation.
What kind of conversation?
Well, it highlights these different approaches to philanthropy and social change.
Yeah.
On the one hand, we have traditional aid food banks, shelters, things like that.
Focused on immediate needs.
Exactly. And then there's this other approach, the one that the article is highlighting, which is about empowering people, breaking the cycle of poverty through opportunities.
Like job training or education.
Exactly.
So which approach is better?
That's a tough question. Both have their pros and cons.
Okay, so it's not about picking sides.
No, it's about recognizing the nuances, understanding what each approach brings to the table.
So this article, it's kind of opening the door to a much wider discussion.
Exactly, and that's what makes it so interesting.
And it makes you wonder
Yeah, go on.
if these individual acts of kindness, even with an empowerment focus,
Mm-hmm.
are really enough to create lasting change.
That is the question, isn't it?
It is, and that's what we'll be exploring further in this deep dive.
I'm ready when you are. Yeah, it's a big question, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to get caught up in the feel-good story,
Absolutely.
but I do want to look at the practicality of this whole approach.
I think that's really smart to do because you're right, the article itself,
It's pretty vague.
yeah, it doesn't really give us specifics about what Musk actually offered.
Exactly, so we're left kind of guessing.
Yeah, which is probably why people are talking about it so much.
It's like a choose your own adventure for kindness, right?
I like that.
Did Musk like hook him up with a Tesla job or introduce him to a VC?
Right.
Or maybe something totally different like mentorship,
Maybe.
or access to education.
Yeah, it's really open to interpretation.
And I think that ambiguity it kind of makes us think creatively
It does.
about how we can help others.
Absolutely, because it's not always about money, right?
Right. We can share knowledge, make connections, just listen.
And sometimes that's the most valuable thing you can offer, especially for someone experiencing homelessness.
Yeah, feeling invisible, unheard.
Right. It's about recognizing their potential, offering guidance, helping them regain a sense of agency.
Building that partnership, not just a handout.
Exactly. And the article seems to suggest that this approach, it kind of fits with Musk's whole philosophy.
Disrupting the status quo.
Yeah, innovating, finding new ways to do things. And that extends to his philanthropy, too.
So you're saying there's a bigger trend here beyond just this one story.
There is. There's this growing movement in philanthropy that's shifting away from that traditional charity model.
Okay, where you just focus on immediate relief.
Right, and moving towards a more venture philanthropy approach.
Venture philanthropy, now that sounds interesting.
It is. The idea is to apply business principles to social problems.
Oh, well.
So you identify promising social ventures and support them not just with funding.
But with guidance, mentorship connections.
Exactly, like investing in social impact startups.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Right, and the goal is to create sustainable solutions that actually address the root causes of problems.
Instead of just putting a Band-Aid on them.
Exactly. So it's about long-term change, not just temporary fixes.
And that brings us back to the Musk story, right?
It does, because while we don't know the specifics of what he offered,
He was probably more than just cash.
most likely, it was about giving this man a chance to transform his life in a lasting way.
And that's where empathy comes in again, right?
Yes, the article really highlights how Musk took the time to listen to the man's story.
To understand his situation.
Exactly, and that allowed him to offer something truly meaningful, something tailored to that individual's needs and aspirations.
So it's not about imposing our own solutions.
No, not at all. It's about understanding their circumstances, their goals, and then finding ways to support their journey.
And that requires humility.
Right, absolutely. Recognizing that we don't have all the answers, but we can create space for collaboration and empowerment.
So it's not just what we give, it's how we give it.
Exactly. The intention behind our actions matters a great deal.
Which brings us back to that big question from before.
About individual acts of kindness and lasting change.
Yeah, are they enough?
It's complex, and there's no easy answer, but
maybe that's not the point.
you're right. Maybe the real value of this story is not in finding a definitive answer, but in sparking a wider conversation.
About how we approach philanthropy and social change.
Absolutely. Stories like this, they have the power to shift perspectives, challenge assumptions.
And encourage us to look beyond the headlines.
Yes, to engage in a deeper dialogue about the complexities of social issues.
It's a reminder that we all have a role to play in creating a more compassionate and just world.
Absolutely, whether it's through a grand gesture like Musk's or a simple act of kindness in our daily lives, every contribution counts.
And what's truly inspiring is that these actions,
No matter how small,
they could have a ripple effect.
they can inspire others to act, creating this chain reaction of kindness and generosity.
So I want to turn to you, the listener, for a moment.
Yes. What resonates with you about this story?
What kind of impact do you want to make in the world?
You see, this is where the story, it shifts from being about Elon Musk.
And becomes about each of us.
Exactly. It's an invitation to reflect on our own values, our resources, our potential to create positive change.
We've explored the power of opportunity, the importance of empathy,
The shift towards venture philanthropy.
but ultimately the question remains, how will we as individuals respond to this call to action?
Will we rethink our own approach to giving?
Will we look for opportunities to empower others in our communities?
These are questions worth pondering as we move towards our final thoughts.
And as we do, I want to emphasize that even though this story features Elon Musk, it's really a reminder that anyone, regardless of background or financial status, can make a difference.
Absolutely true. Generosity. It's not limited by external factors.
It comes from within.
Right. A genuine desire to connect with others, understand their needs, contribute to their well-being.
And those qualities are accessible to everyone. Okay, so we've talked about different approaches to philanthropy, the power of opportunity, and the importance of empathy. But before we wrap things up, I want to go back to something we touched on earlier. The article and our discussion, they've really focused on individual acts of kindness.
Right.
But can that really make a difference on a systemic issue like homelessness?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's easy to get caught up in these feel-good stories.
Yeah.
But we have to remember that homelessness, it's a complex issue.
Right. There are so many factors involved.
Exactly. Social, economic, political, individual acts of generosity, they're important. but they can't replace the need for systemic change.
So what would that kind of change look like?
Well, it would involve tackling the root causes of homelessness, things like affordable housing policies,
Right.
access to mental health and addiction services, job training programs, living wages.
Okay, so those are some big picture solutions.
Exactly. It's about addressing the underlying systems that perpetuate these problems.
So we need both a micro and a macro approach.
Absolutely. Individual acts of kindness, they can provide immediate relief, empower people on a personal level.
Yeah.
But we also need to address those broader societal structures that create inequality and hardship.
And that requires everyone to work together.
Right. It does. It involves advocating for policy changes, supporting organizations that are fighting for systemic solutions, and having open and honest conversations about these challenges.
So the story of Elon Musk and the homeless man, it's inspiring.
But it's just one piece of the puzzle.
Exactly. We need to keep that bigger picture in mind.
Right. It's a reminder that we all have a role to play in building a more just and compassionate world.
Whether it's through individual kindness or by tackling those systemic issues.
Each contribution makes a difference.
It's about recognizing that we're all connected.
And our actions, they have a ripple effect.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's quickly go over the key takeaways.
Okay.
We've seen how opportunity can empower people to break free from poverty. We've talked about the importance of empathy and understanding.
Tailoring our support to meet individual needs.
And we've explored that shift towards a venture philanthropy approach.
Focusing on sustainable solutions rather than temporary fixes.
But maybe the most important takeaway is this.
I'm listening.
While we celebrate individual acts of kindness,
Yes.
we can't lose sight of the need for systemic change.
Right. We need both.
And we need to keep talking about these complex social issues and working together to build a society where everyone has a chance to thrive.
I agree wholeheartedly.
So as we end here, I want to leave you with this thought. What can you bring to the table to help create a more just and compassionate world?
What unique skills, resources, or perspectives do you have?
The answer lies within each of us. So go out there and make a difference.